Hey, Scuttlebutt listeners, thank you again for tuning in. I am Vic, working remote, and I'm here with Nancy, also working remotely.
Hi, everyone.
And so this is a little strange. So we recorded an interview with Kacy Tellessen, friend of the show. Um, if for all of our listeners who tuned in before, and for those who didn't, Kacy Tellesen is the author of the book Freaks of a Feather, highly acclaimed and received an award through the Marine Corps Heritage Foundation, along with our distinguished awardee and now executive editor of Leatherneck, Nancy Lichman. And
Yeah,
so
let's
then
get that in there again.
yeah. Oh, I'm gonna keep throwing that out there. Um, so you guys were at the same event together. Can you explain a little bit about like your interactions with Kacy there and how this sort of second interview came about?
Well, so Kacy and I were both at the Marine Corps Heritage Foundation Awards. He was the Eugene Sledge winner for his novel, not novel, for his memoir, Freaks of a Feather. And we've talked about that before on the show, as you just said. We've talked with Kacy. I interviewed Kacy for Leatherneck when we ran an excerpt from the book. And so I had talked to him on the phone and remotely with internet connection multiple times, but never actually met in person until that dinner. And so we got a chance to meet in person, say hello, have a drink together, toast each other. And, I wanted to make sure we could get him back on the show to talk about what he's doing now. And so that's how this conversation happened. And yeah, we were really happy to have him back on the show.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of this conversation, so going back to why we're doing this sort of intro part is it goes off the rails quick.
Oh
But
yeah, it went off the rails before it even got started.
yeah, but it's all awesome because for those of you who maybe know Kacy or enjoyed the first interview, the guy is, I mean, he's brilliant. His mind is so sharp, but his wit is just unbelievably dry and hilarious. Um, and so we just got to talking, and normally we talk to guests before just the schmooze. But this was such great stuff. I didn't want him to have to like try to capture lightning in a bottle and say the same thing in the same way and the same tone and all that stuff. So we're just gonna give you guys the unabridged version, and just really enjoy this time with Kacy. I think when we start off, we're talking about his how his commencement speech um, for or for law school came about, and so it's really
Right.
hilarious. His references to fellow students thinking he was the janitor, is just it's gold. And so this was such a great interview. Kacy's always awesome. So we didn't want to cut any of this stuff for you guys. So yeah, enjoy. And yeah, this is us, and hope you guys have fun with it. We definitely had so much fun with him.
We sure did. We hope you enjoy listening.
All right, thanks everyone. Enjoy the interview.
I'm at in this whole situation.
Dude, we watched your commencement speech, and dude, I was hoping they would pan and show the faculty as you're talking about misery, and like it was very profound, but considering there's so much like pomp and circumstance, and it's something like that, and then for you to be up there talking about how the word of the day is misery, I just thought that was so great.
Oh yeah, I had to submit the speech and had to get approved, and apparently the dean didn't read it like he was supposed to, so he was actually not very pleased with the speech at all. So it was kind of a
really?
Yeah, it was kind of a winning combo. I got to give a pretty nice speech and then piss the dean off on my way out. So
School's out for summer.
I know it was
What did he not like about it?
I think it's because I didn't, for lack of a better term, blow the school, and pretend like it was the greatest thing that I've ever experienced. And I'm like, no, this is a terrible experience. I didn't enjoy this at all, And so I think he wanted much more fluffery than I was going to.
Well, dude, I hate to ask you to say all these things again, but this is like gold. We got to make sure that we revisit this
Mhm.
when we
We want
actually
to
go.
we want to really exploit your experiences for our own personal gain. So just hold that thought, okay?
Oh,
Well,
perfect.
no, it's just too like, I mean, everything about your life and things obviously we want to talk about for this interview. I mean, it just so interesting. And so like this is another aspect where like something that's fairly, I mean, it's a great accomplishment, but it's still fairly like benign. Like, yeah, you got selected for this commencement speech. And then you like take that in a totally different direction. Not only that, but the dean who's supposed to approve it doesn't read it and then gets surprised on the day of. Man, that's so like you can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, I was actually a little shocked to get like even selected in the first place, because these are a bunch of,
Yeah.
22, 24-year-old kids. Like, what? I am
Yeah, no,
literally ancient.
when they did show everyone standing up, because you're a big standing O. Yeah, those are some baby faces in there, man. Like you think about, here's our future lawyers, and like my wife, she just left law, but I remember in her practice, like everyone was old and white and male. And
Yeah.
so when they showed the law school, I'm like, oh yeah, they are young at one point, aren't they?
Yeah. And I have a lot of that equation. I just don't have the experience part. I have
Right,
the
right,
old,
right.
but yeah, it was pretty funny. Well, it's funny too. Like going around the school too, I always felt like people looked at me like I was there to fix the HVAC or something. Like they were gonna tell me that there was a toilet backed up on the third floor or something. So it was always pretty
Hey,
funny.
so real quick, Nancy, I'm gonna just go ahead and make the call that this is gonna be part of the interview, and we'll just do a front part going into this thing. All right.
Yeah, are you
Yeah.
recording it?
Yeah. I
Okay.
hit record early on, just to
Okay,
make
good.
sure. So Kacy, you are now locked in on all this shit. So nice thing is you don't have to say it all again. But
Fair
bad
enough.
thing is this is airing. So well, let me at least do the introductions at this point, since our listeners will just be tuning in halfway through our conversation. So, Scuttlebutt listeners, yeah, here we are. We are a good 10 minutes into our conversation already, and we are here with author, a Juris Doctor, Kacy Tellessen. Thanks for being on the show, man.
Well, thanks for having me, Rick and Nancy. It's always a pleasure to talk to you guys.
Yeah, this is really great. So, for those who didn't tune in earlier, or who weren't paying attention, or just pay attention, that sounds a little a little bit of an indictment there. We had an earlier episode with Kacy where we talked about his book, Freaks of a Feather, a wonderful, wonderful, just profound, beautiful memoir about your time in Iraq, your transition from the Corps as a machine gunner, and your journey with mental health, with family life, life no longer as an active duty Marine. It was such a wonderful book that you were awarded um, by the Marine Corps Heritage Foundation for outstanding memoir. And so here we are, Nancy Lichman, also an award winner, and Kacy Tellessen, an award winner from the same event, from the same foundation. So this is so great. But again, man, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Yeah, it makes you want to believe in fate. Me and Nancy were there at the same award ceremony. But yeah, that was a really cool experience. Definitely, like most things in my life, felt completely out of place there. But it was definitely yeah, it was definitely a cool experience. I can check off the list. I met a commandant, so I've done that now. Probably
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
And a pretty not a very controversial one at this stage as well. So controversy seems to follow you around, man.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy times we're living.
Yeah,
Well, I thought it was so great too, because I think we interviewed you I mean, a few months before they announced the award winners. And so to have both, Nancy and you in the same place, we really were trying to actually get our mobile podcasting suite there so we could actually talk to you guys at the event, but they shut us. They wouldn't even let us come in through the back door. But it's great to have you guys both here.
It's just got way too complicated. I mean, they knew they had to let me in because I was getting an award, but when they heard about this, they were like, no way.
Yeah. So well, tell us a little bit, because there's obviously a lot for those who caught the first part of this, a lot going on with you. Tell us a little bit about what it was like to receive the award, to be at the event, some of the reception of your book since having gotten the award. Like how's the fantastic voyage been?
I mean, like I kind of already alluded to, it's very surreal. You just I'm in a tuxedo. I think I haven't been in a tuxedo since I was 17 years old at prom. So that was kind of funny. And so it was funny because I just naturally rented it because I don't own a tuxedo. So I go to pick it up the day before, and the pants are literally a foot too short on the. And I was like, "Oh, excellent!" And I told the guy, I was like, "I think we have a little problem." He's like, "Oh yeah, I guess they look a little short." And I'm like, "My calves are exposed, man. We've reached."
Did he try to sell you on that it's a European cut?
He didn't actually. I was surprised. I was expecting that. Yeah. But no, luckily they had a tailor there and able to fix it. But no, it was a really cool experience. My family came, like not my children didn't come, but my wife came and my mother and father came. So that was really cool. Yeah, my mom's always just been one of my biggest supporters as a writer, and so is my wife. So it was really cool that they got to be there for that.
And the event, the Marine Corps Heritage Foundation did such a top-notch Class A job in putting together an event that I mean, it felt really amazing. It felt really special, but it wasn't pretentious. At least that was my impression. Didn't you just feel like, I don't know, it was very, I still, like have to pinch myself. Wait, was I really at that? Was that real?
Yeah, no, it was well. My only recommendation though is if you're gonna have an open bar, maybe have cheeseburgers or something other than a tiny morsel of steak, because my drinking, Matt didn't match up with my food intake, so I was definitely kind of stumbling out of there by the end of it.
Well, I had my youngest son was with us. He's 23, and I'm trying to remember now why there was a. Okay. So we keep kosher. So some of the stuff that was on everybody else's plate, they left off of our plate. I think you guys had shrimp or something. I don't know. So they gave us 2 steaks. Well, I didn't eat 2 of those steaks, but my 23-year-old son, like on the second steak, you could just kind of see him there, like smiling and closing his eyes, taking a bite of steak. Like, this is the greatest meal I've ever had. Thanks, Mom. Like, anyway.
No, but overall, it was a fantastic event. And like you said, I mean, it was very well put together. I mean, they ran that thing like a tight ship. I mean, everything was on time. Everything went perfect. I got to meet a couple of dudes I'd only met through Instagram. So that was cool to meet them finally. Worth Parker, I don't know if you guys know Worth, if you've had him on the show or not, but he's pretty fantastic. And he's definitely somebody you guys should reach out to. He helped co-write that space book with
Tom Schumann?
Yeah, so he wrote the Afghani part of that book.
Okay.
He was a Marine Raider forever, just a top-notch dude.
Yeah, when we had Tom on the show and we talked about the book, he did mention him helping out with the Zach narrative for that, but.
And it's tremendous. He's got this southern drawl of a voice that'll just like lull you to sleep. You're like, man, that's one of the most soothing voices I've ever heard before.
Like, you speak like I imagine a mint julep would speak. So what has it been like? So how did that work? Did you just like get an email like, hey, congratulations? Or did you know that this was like sort of coming down the pike and that you were a nominee? Like, how does give us a little you behind
Yeah,
the
so
book that
I
you're working on?
didn't think I had much of a shot of winning, mainly because I was also going up against Schumann for that for his book, and I don't know, just because I'm a paranoid freak, I assumed it was some kind of an officers club, and they really
Mm.
maybe they weren't going to give it to an enlisted guy, but so that was I was definitely surprised I got it. But yeah, just an email that said, hey, you won this award, you get to fly out if you want to and come to this award ceremony. So it was definitely a shock. I definitely wasn't expecting it at all.
And then how's it been since? I mean, because you published, I should have grabbed it. It's right over on but I mean, you were published, I mean, a few years ago. Um, it'd be pre law school, right?
It was my 1L year of law school. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was that. So it was the summer of my first year. And
Okay.
yeah, I'm just happy it's still somewhat relevant. That's always pretty cool. A lot of these books will have a week.
Yeah.
And isn't it the PB Abate book club selection for this month, or was that last month?
That's been a few months ago, but we're actually
okay.
I'm headed out there into this month though for the big retreat though. So Sebastian Younger's going to be there and stuff, so it should be a pretty good time.
Yeah.
They're actually bringing me because I used to barbecue for a living, So I think they're just bringing me to help them cook the pig. I think but that's fine.
We've got all this meat. We have no one who knows anything to do with it. And so, what has it been like for you? I guess you've got a lot of like things that are culminating, sort of simultaneous, and then now you're revisiting your memoir. Has it been sort of a nice sort of validation of all the work that you put in prior to law school? Is it kind of stressing you out a little bit because now you have to there's just another thing, another pound that has to go in the pack, even if it's awesome? Like, how has it been? Or is it just you're so focused now, like on the bar and graduating law school, that it's just yeah, where are you at, right? I guess.
So it was that the night of the award ceremony, I finally allowed myself to feel proud of myself for like 5 minutes. Like I'm going to take a good solid 5 minutes here, be proud of myself for having stuck with this project, And then after that, the next morning, I was slightly hungover, and I'm like, oh, you only wrote one book. Who cares? Doesn't matter. You're a one-hit wonder. Congratulations, Kacy.
Hey, but you're 1 for 1, dude. Like it's.
Yeah, it's just not the way my brain works, but and then like the law, graduating law school and stuff. It is funny that all this kind of stuff is kind of hit at once because I'm always, it seems in my life, I'm always working towards something and never actually chasing it down, and then I've actually chased down a couple of things. So it's like when the dog actually catches the bird and they don't know what to do with it. That's kind of what I feel like.
Yeah, I remember when my dog caught her first squirrel. She tried to squish its belly to make it squeak like her toys.
Yeah.
And then it finally just ran away. But anyways, that's a stupid story. But so, and then what has it been like? Are you getting more people, publishing houses or publishing people trying to talk to you about a potential future project, or you're just kind of riding this wave?
I'm just kind of riding this wave. I haven't really heard anything. I did make some cool connections that night with some other authors. The author of the Wolves of Helmand, we've started a dialogue. So it's been cool to talk to him. It was just really neat to be around all those people. As far as like gigs or anything like that, I've definitely got some offers to write for some different publications and stuff like that. But I just keep having to tell people to like, by the end of the day, my brain is mush from bar prep, so I can't even barely pick something on the TV. So I don't really feel like I'm up for writing anything creatively right now. So I'm hoping to get through this bar prep thing, take the bar at the end of July, and then hopefully I can start writing again seriously.
Do you have anything in the queue? Any ideas or?
Yeah, I'm working on some different essays, and then I do have a substantial part of a novel written that I really want to keep working on. Yeah,
that's great.
I was just saying, your prose, man, is just so tight. And, I think it's worth mentioning because we mentioned it last time you were on, but, Cormac McCarthy just passed away. Not like I'm insinuating that you would fill that void or anything, but I mean, there is, I don't know. I think with everything in the media, it's, there's no, there needs to be more of an appetite for sort of that long, to sticking with something, whether it's, an endeavor, a project, or a narrative, in the way that you compose your writing. I really feel like, yeah, I'd really like to see you write a novel, I guess is where I'm going with all this. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, geez, I got a little notification on my phone yesterday about Cormac McCarthy, and like, you wouldn't think it would bum me out so much because I mean, guy was almost 90, but man, yesterday I was just like melancholy thinking about it.
Yeah.
Just to think that like that mind is no longer in the world. It just seems like we're not as well off as we were when he was still around.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a loss. I don't think we'll ever see that guy's equal again, or maybe we've never have in the first place. But
Yeah, at least for what he was doing. I mean, you definitely got to put him in the sort of the Tolkien, like these really iconoclast sort of people.
yeah, well, it's so interesting too that the guy just didn't keep up with the times. Like he didn't care what was popular, what wasn't. He was like, no, this is what I'm going to write, and he just went for it, and everything speaks for itself. I mean, I think the most commercially viable thing he wrote was The Road. And it's hilarious that that's a commercially viable thing for Cormac McCarthy.
Right. Well, I mean, they made a ton of money off of the obviously the film of No Country for Old Men. But yeah, The Road is still like one of my, I mean, really foundational texts for me, especially as a father. But we digress. So just also, so yeah, we've alluded to it a few times now. So you are officially a Juris Doctor, from Gonzaga University. And Nancy was kind enough to share your YouTube link, which we're going to post in the show description here, to your commencement speech, man. So congratulations on getting selected for that.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
How did you get selected? What was that process like?
They just have a ballot, so they break it goes down into three different, I think it's like three different voting rounds where they narrow it down, and then I just kept getting selected and kept getting selected. So yeah, it was kind of funny too, because it came at like naturally the worst possible time. Towards finals is when you get the word, so you got to take your finals, and then I'm stressing out about this writing this speech, and just because my brain is the way it is, like I just was stressed about it. You know what I mean? And I asked people, and I was like, God, how did I look? Did I look pretty nervous up there? And like, no, you look fine. I was like, oh, well, I was about to vomit. So I'm glad that I didn't look too nervous up there.
You looked very relaxed. I was very impressed. I'm not a huge fan of public speaking. So yeah, you looked incredibly relaxed, at least on the YouTube video. And it was a great speech.
Thank you.
It really was great. Yeah. How did you? So I mean, so in your speech, you talked about like you needed to just shut your brain off, and then sort of let the inner workings, let the synapses do the work. Is that really what happened? Like you just were looking for a word, and then it came up as you were scrolling through Netflix?
Yeah, 100%. And I'm a Stephen King junkie, so his like stuff is always kind of like queued up as stuff that you should watch, or that stuff that I've already watched 100 times. And I'd written like 3 speeches, and they were just garbage, and I was like, this is completely phony, you know what I mean? And I didn't even sound like myself. And yeah, so I kept going on hikes, and I kept going on jogs, and like trying to think about it. And I would kind of come up with like maybe a concept or whatever, but I didn't have the right vehicle for the concept because I hadn't found that word yet, and then yeah, there was just waiting for me, so, and that's one of my favorite movies of all time, Misery. Fantastic movie. So I was like, this is perfect.
Sure.
I get to plug.
Oh, it's a great movie.
Yeah. It's just like the scene with the legs part is just chilling still.
Oh yeah. And Kathy Bates, I mean, what a performance of a lifetime. It's fantastic. But I did want to be truthful to the experience of law school, and it's a lot of law school, as I'm sure your wife can attest to, Vic, is it is truly miserable. You know what I mean? You have to push past those. One, I had to toughen up my ass because I was sitting so long reading, and I had never done that. I'd never sat that long in my life, So literally the first semester, I'm like, my ass is sore. Like I have to get my ass in sitting shape for this experience. And so it's just you study as much as you think you can, and then you study for 3 hours longer, and that's kind of how it goes.
Would you go from class to class with one of those hemorrhoid donuts?
I should have, but I didn't. I'm already the oldest person there, so the last thing I want is a hemorrhoid donut to accompany my walker. So yeah, it was just funny because school's always come. I don't want to sound conceited or anything, but it's always come pretty easy to me. I've never had to really struggle to do well in school. And that was not the case in law school. It was not super easy. It didn't come intuitively to me. Just because the writing's so weird, what they're looking for is so weird. It was just completely out of anything I'd ever done before. So that first year, it was definitely okay, time to make some adjustments, and this is not a good time. So, and then also because just a glutton for punishment, I kept doing extra stuff, because I got on the law review, became the managing editor of the law review. And I'm like, what are you doing, Kacy? Stop this, And so, yeah, just one thing, everything just spiraled out of control before. No, I'm like, I just, I sleep 3 or 4 hours a night if I'm lucky, and the rest is just banging my head against stuff. But it was good. And like I mentioned in the speech too, it's I do think I'm better for the experience, and I think hopefully it hasn't completely destroyed my actual creative writing, but it's been good, and I think it's been, at least my ass is tougher now. So I got that going for me.
Yeah, that's right.
I was just going to say, you at least have that as I don't know, a trophy. I don't know.
Yeah. Weird. So yeah, if either of you are thinking about going to law school, maybe don't.
Yeah, no, that is yeah, no, never did think about it, because I don't have the intellectual stamina for that.
Yeah, and that's
so
what
my
it
hat
is.
is off to you.
I don't think it has nothing to do with I don't think it has anything to do with your actual intelligence, It's literally can you sit in this chair and read this stuff? Can you endure that? I don't think it has much to do with oh, this person's actually really smart. It's no, is this person of lug enough that they could just sit there and take all this reading? You know what I mean? Especially because it's reading that you're just oh wow, I'm not interested in a lot of this in the slightest.
It's so interesting. There's such a stigma and a stereotype of lawyers being these very almost narcissistic in their arrogance, very confident. But hearing you talk reminds me a lot of my wife, things that she would say, and it almost sounds self-deprecating, but there's a sincerity level to it. They're I'm not that smart. I'm just really good at the patience and the discipline to sit and weed through this excruciating document and pulling out the requisite information that I need.
Yeah, so really it doesn't come. I mean, I guess that's a form of intelligence to a certain degree, but it's not necessarily this and another thing to your point, the narcissism and that kind of stuff. One thing I've realized is that, including myself, just about everybody at law school has some kind of mental disorder, a one way, shape, or another. We're all have some fucked up, broken part within us, and that's why we're at law school. So there's that too you have to contend with. Most of us are on the spectrum, and then we have an accompanying mental disorder. So that you get that
Right.
too.
Yeah, mixed in with a type A personality.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to reconsider that. I might fit right in.
And so, as you were giving that, so we were joking earlier about, the dean being the first time you heard it was when you were giving it. One of the things I found really interesting is this idea, this juxtaposition of you being in law school, former machine gunner, combat veteran, published and recognized awarded author in with kids whose experience level, not only is their age, not only separated from age, but your experience. Was there something about that environment that the Marine Corps, in a weird way, sort of prepared you for? Because, you were in these leadership positions with younger Americans, younger people who were very, goal oriented, mission oriented, and wanted to achieve at a high level. And here you are again, years later, in that same sort of environment. Did you sort of feel like that section leader, that squad leader, those attributes coming out in that, or were you just so like nose to the grindstone?
No, it seemed very, and you don't want to compare anything to the Marine Corps because people get mad. Marines get mad that there's nothing like the Marine Corps, but it's very similar. Even like one of the premises of my book, Freaks with Feathers, like you have this particular kind of people, and they see this beacon, and they're all kind of drawn towards it for whatever reason. But a lot of the underlying reasons are the same. There's this need to prove yourself, to finally find something that maybe you can intellectually be proud of, as because you get a couple cool little letters after your name or something, and you're just kind of seeking, and there's some people there that are like probably save the world types, but also at their core is they're trying to prove something to themselves too, that they can do this and they can, so you get a lot of the same mentality and a lot of the same doggedness in law students that you do in Marines, of like, well, I'm here, I'm going to do the best I can, and then you definitely get the self-sorting that you also get in the Marine Corps, where people start to group into the higher performers, mid performers, and the people that are kind of just there for the paycheck. So I saw a lot of the same exact stuff, in law school. And then it was interesting too, because there was a lot of people that are like private school kids, you know what I mean? And I am objectively not a private school kid, so it was, but it was funny to see though that, like, despite these differences, just like in the Marine Corps, there's this common foundation of things, of like the more I'm around people, the more I realize that, and the more I feel that, like, there are literally just types of people, you know what I mean? And they kind of just all start to coagulate together anytime you're in a big group, and you'll find each other eventually. And it definitely kind of reinforced itself in law school.
And then that idea too, sort of the theme of your commencement speech about misery. I mean, it really does. It is the glue that binds, right? In so many ways.
Yeah, and then especially too, like doing the law review thing, you have this added layer of this smaller group of people, and I guess it's very Marine Corps like too, the law review, because it's all these dummies that think they're smarter than everybody, So we think we're the best, obviously, and so, but it's all it is this added misery of doing this academic work, and reading these academic articles written by professors and judges and clerks and that kind of stuff. And you really bond with those people, because you're like, okay, not only am I doing law school and working, I'm also putting in, 4 hours a day on law review. And it kind of, you just get that, the more miserable the experience is, it seems like the stronger the bond is. And that definitely was the same with law review too. And, something I definitely saw echoes in the Marine Corps in law review.
Nice. Okay. So you are a man of eternal transition. So now you are moving into bar prep. What is that like?
But it's almost comical, the sheer volume of stuff. It's kind of, you just kind of have to see your task for the day, because I've got this. I'm using Themis. That's one of the bar prep companies. And they'll task you out, like, here's what you should do today to keep on track, And then, because if I have a list of things I have to do today, like, I have to get those things done at all costs. So, but it's just, you just see the volume of this stuff, and they're like, yeah, so learn criminal procedure today and then take a test. They're like, oh, so just learn all of criminal procedure today and take a test on it? Like, super. That should be awesome.
What am I going to do with the rest of my day?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's just been kind of comical, because it's even, the volume is more intense than law school. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of funny. And then it's like, they give you a recommended study schedule, and the recommended study schedule is like 8 hours a day, 7 days a week for 2 months straight. Whoa. That's the schedule. So you're just like, I don't know if anyone like actually does the whole thing because you might evaporate. I'm not sure, but so far I'm holding the line. But it's definitely like, geez, this is a lot again. So here I am.
A lot.
Yeah,
A lot. That sounds like an understatement. It sounds like more than a lot. It, I mean, how do you keep your focus for that long? And what happens to your family life? Is that just in the toilet now?
The fam just got out of school. My wife's a teacher. She's a third grade teacher. So she just got done with school and the kids are back home now. So this is our first week back cohabitating. So we'll see what happens. Too early to tell, but I think I just put up a white trash pool for him outside, like an above ground pool. So hopefully that keeps him distracted.
Yeah. Oh man. So what do you, I guess so your word for law school was misery. What's sort of your as you reflect back, I don't even know if you've had time to reflect with all everything you got going on, but it seems to me like a word for this season in your life is sort of perseverance. Do you think that does that resonate?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's kind of I don't know, maybe that's like, should be everybody's word for life. Some of this you just got to persevere, and it, you just can't, I don't know. The way I'm wired is I just can't stop doing stuff, because that's like, I know one of the reasons we want to get together is talk about mental health and stuff, but like, one of my coping mechanisms is staying busy. You know what I mean? So for me,
Yeah.
this is just my constant state of being. If I'm not completely overwhelmed with tasks, like that's when I'll start to have issues.
Yeah.
So it kind of perseverance, endurance. I don't know. That's just the way I live. And I kind of have to.
Do you start to, when you're not, as you said, overwhelmed with tasks, do you start to overthink? Is that what you mean by kind of get in trouble?
Yeah, I'll overthink, or just that's when I'll start to engage in like more self-destructive behavior if I have too much free time to myself. That's when the bourbon bottle starts to look a little too appealing and starts whispering to me on the table, that kind of stuff. And so it's just I gotta stay moving. I gotta stay busy. That's just the way I've kind of dealt with things pretty much forever. And I don't know if it's a healthy coping mechanism, but it makes you pretty productive. So that's a bonus.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say it seems like it's very productive in terms of coping skills.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think that these points are important later this, and I'm not sure where we're going to fall out in the airing schedule of this episode, but we've got this month coming up for PTSD Awareness Month. We've got the director of this movie that's came out on June 9th called Mending the Line, and it deals with post-traumatic stress and mental health and the therapeutic aspects of fly fishing.
Mm.
And they tells it through a fictional tale, but obviously pulling from a lot of real world uh, accounts, but of a Marine who is wounded in Afghanistan and is having trouble transitioning, and he finds uh, a mentor in a Vietnam vet who was also a veteran Marine, and they sort of come through their mental health therapy through fly fishing together in Montana. It's a beautiful story. But anyhow, that's a really long setup to say like everybody sort of has their own thing, and there's no like right way of working through um, mental health and post-traumatic stress. I know for me, I can't do the overtasking things because as a San Diego beach kid, I don't deal well with stress. And so, which, probably didn't serve me too well on multiple combat tours, but at the same time, like my thing is that balance. And so for me, almost, metaphorically and so in many cases, literally, like I need to be on the board in the moment as the waves are approaching one at a time.
Mhm.
If I start thinking about the upcoming swell or the reef or where everything's breaking, then I'm, I'm going to shut down. And so I've got to sort of do the balancing thing. And so, but all of that is to say, mental health is that thing that you can't cookie cut. You've really got to, and why it's such a challenge for mental health professionals, I think, is that there is no template for this damn thing.
No, and everybody brings their own baggage to the table, whether that be their, their personal trauma or their upbringing in general. Like you said, we had very different upbringings, so I deal with things in a different way than you do. And I think maybe some of mine comes from my dad being a somewhat workaholic, you know what I mean? But always being super productive. And it's something I always watched. And I always was like, oh, this guy's got it together because he's always working. So it's something I always associated with having your shit together, was just nonstop working.
Yeah.
So that just was just what I observed when I was a kid. And so that's a whole other thing I'm bringing to the table. Then with all this shit that happened in Iraq too, you have that too. And they kind of commingle, and then you have something entirely different, which, like you said, there's no one medication or one therapy that works for everybody. And like even my method of staying spread super thin and always busy, so I can't really dwell on things. It has its pitfalls, because like during law school, I started to get overwhelmed, and I started to almost regress, because I was like, oh, I've actually taken on too much. You know what I mean? Like I can't, like this, I'm using this, my coping mechanism as like a means of self-destruction or something, because this is too much. And I started to like really struggle there for a couple of months, and was like going to dark places again. I'm like, dude, you just got to center your chi and keep working, and everything will be fine. And luckily it was, you know what I mean? I was able to, use some strategies that I've used in the past and just kind of focus and keep working. But it was interesting, because it was like the thing I normally do to keep my mind right was starting to be the thing that was hurting me more, so it's like with everybody. And like you said it earlier, it's a balance, you know what I mean? And even your coping mechanisms have to be balanced to a certain degree.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
And obviously everybody listening knows I'm not a Marine, not a veteran. Also, disclaimer, not a mental health professional. But what I hear from both of you is that what it sounds like to me, correct me if I'm wrong, that there's not some magical world where you are and you're cured, or you're everything's great, but that what you do is you learn coping mechanisms, coping skills, and you learn better how to handle those triggers and those things that like you said, Kacy, take you to a dark place. That's really what it's the key to, is that, and understanding that you're not, I don't know if I'm using the right terminology here, but you're not fixed, but that you have a much better understanding of what you need to do to be feeling good on a daily basis.
That's perfect. Yeah, just like one of Vic's word of the day is, endurance. Like that's part of it too. Like you have to, it's a constant thing. You can't, and once you start, you don't give it attention and you kind of put it on the back burner, it becomes a problem again. So it's like you can get to a place where you're feeling really good and everything's going well, but you didn't get there without work and effort. And you have to realize that and keep putting forth that effort to maintain that kind of hopefully homeostasis that you can get from actually putting effort in your mental health. But it's not you don't just go through something like, well, now it's all good. I'm fine now. Yeah. That was awesome. No, it's a constant, like, you got to keep it in check. You got to be mindful of it. And if you don't, it'll come back and bite you, and I think maybe that's some mistakes that people do. They'll go maybe on a retreat or something, feel great, and then quit doing the things that got them there. And then they're right back where they started, if not worse. So it's just a constant, you got to put effort into it.
I think people make the mistake of thinking that good mental health can be, sort of repaired in the way that a broken bone can be set and then heal. Mm-hmm. And I don't, again, not a mental health professional here, need to put that disclaimer out there, but I don't think in my time living on this earth, that's not true. That's not true. It's a constant thing to be living your best life every day. You have to work with it.
Yeah, and you just gotta. I don't know. For me, it's helpful to think about the times in my life when I was felt the best and was doing the best. And I had to think about what was I doing on those, what was I doing that made me feel that way? Because often you'll just quit doing those things, even though like subconsciously you know you should be doing them. Like I know if I don't get some kind of daily exercise or something, either if it's moving weights around, going for a walk, or hiking or something, which is one of the problems I had in law school because I quit doing that because I didn't have the time, or at least in my head I didn't have the time, you know.
Yeah.
So that became a problem, you know what I mean? Because before law school, I was running, you know, anywhere from, you know, on a low end, like 20 miles a week to 40 miles a week, you know, and so I was just, it was this time where I would have by myself where I could reflect, be in a little bit of pain, and kind of sort my thoughts out. And then once I removed that from my, you know, daily practice, it, you know, there were implications and there were problems because of that, you know, and I just didn't even put two and two together. And then months passed by, and before I knew it, I was like, why do I feel so shitty? You know, like, well, you sit on your ass all day, you don't get any exercise. You know, I mean, that's a big part of it too for me. And so I think, and like daily practices, I think are just key for me. I'm sure other people are the same. Like, if I can do some like daily journaling just to get out of the monkey brain and get something on the page, even if it's a 3 sentences, 4 sentences or something, you know, like if I do that in the morning and I get some exercise in, I'm generally going to be okay for the day, you know. And when I quit doing those things, which happens to me all the time, that's when I'll start to regress and start to, you know, kind of be stuck in my own bullshit.
Yeah, I think that's a nice sort of, not nice, but I think there's a lot to be said there for that. Not only the repetition of sort of the how you persevere through mental health, at least for me, and I only want to speak, you know, experientially. I don't want to speak for everybody because, you know, I understand it's different for everyone. But I think of it in lots of ways. One, I think for me, giving myself grace, it's probably the hardest thing for me to do. But like, I'm going to go to those dark places because, like you said, Nancy, you might be healing, but you're never going to be healed in the same way that, like, you know, if you dislocate your shoulder, I'll pop it back in, go through some physical therapy. And then also, like what you were saying, Kacy, is like when I do find those gains, almost like with PT, like I think about like bench pressing. Like if I can get up 285, that's amazing. I don't like then put the weight set in the closet and go, I'll be at 285 for the rest of my life. Like, no way. Like, within a week, I'm going to drop down to 250, and within a month, I'll barely be able to lift the bar. You know, so I mean, it's like if you don't stay on it, you're gonna regress. And if you take for granted your successes, you will regress, and you will go to those dark places. But when you do, give yourself grace, and then just get back into the weights, get back into whatever that routine is, and just understand that, granted, you know, whether spiritually or physically, we're all broken people. And so accepting that about yourself, and then just doing those little things to persevere. And then, like you said, Kacy, like sort of partake, like be proximate to the misery. Because when you try to distance yourself, you're going to run into trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's the classic bottle it all up inside until it explodes thing,
Right.
you know. And I've done that too, and it doesn't work out very well, you know. But just I don't know. I don't want it to sound like a pity party because I think that a lot of this, you know, there's that famous quote from Hemingway about like the world breaks most people, but some people become stronger in those broken parts, you know. And I think that there's a lot to that too because yes, we're dealing with a lot of stuff, but like I I do feel like I'm a stronger person and I'm a more durable person because I've dealt with this stuff for so long, and that like maybe I can stumble, I can fall, but like overall I'm a stronger person because of the shit that I've dealt with. And I think that's an important thing to keep thinking about as far as your mental health goes, is that like you said, it's like a muscle, you're working it out, you know, and like you've done some serious, you know what I mean, traumatic exercise to your brain going to combat and seeing the shit that you've seen. But it's not an altogether negative thing, even if you are dealing with some PTSD type symptoms. Like you, if you deal with it, you get it put in the right place. Like I think it can make you a stronger person overall. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like a goal. I don't know. Just like a like you're trying to get stronger. It's like some positive thing you can think about with your mental health too. Is like this isn't the end of you. You know, this makes you a more durable person.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, for me, because I can feel it sometimes, like just doing something as stupid as washing the dishes. Like I can just feel it like rise up, almost like some cartoon character when they get like too hot, and I can just feel it rising. But then at the same time, like I'm gonna have to humble myself when I get out of this thing and apologize and
Yeah.
be repentant, but then not give up. Like I can't just
Mhm.
leave. Like when I feel that way, I can't just like get in the car. Like I'll see you in 72 hours. Like you have to be proximate to it, and then you have to humble yourself, and then give yourself a ton of grace because it's just sometimes it just fucking happens.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I agree. And that's one thing. I mean, you sound like you're maybe better at practice. I'm terrible at giving myself grace for anything, you know. So that's something one of those things I
oh,
got to
I'm
work.
awful. I'm awful. That's why I have to say it multiple times.
Yeah, I mean, but it's the truth, you know. And like you said, you're going to stumble, and because if you don't give yourself a little bit of grace, you're just going to let it destroy you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then your little failure is just going to completely, you know, unravel everything. You can't let that happen.
So, question from me for both of you: what one or two things for good mental health do you wish you had known earlier in your struggles, earlier in this process?
For me, it's that it's stronger than I am. And I shouldn't have been so excited to go off the war
Yeah,
when I was younger.
yeah, I would definitely second that. And I think it was I watched too many John Wayne movies when I was a kid too. You know what I mean? The strong, silent type. You never tell anybody anything. You never, and like we talked about before, like you if you do that shit, it builds and builds and builds, and then you've turned a molehill into a mountain, and then you have a real situation on your hands. So I wish I would have been more forthcoming and willing to communicate things with other people, even just to have a somewhat dialogue, even an internal dialogue. You know what I mean? Because I wouldn't even allow myself to consciously think about these things in a more rational manner. You know what I mean? I would just push it away instead of trying to confront it and deal with it. And that was a lot of the book and the writing process was like, okay, you have to confront these things and you have to try to make sense of these things that just don't make sense. And so just that willingness to either engage with it with another person or even with yourself, because I don't think I was doing that even. And I think if I had I done that from the get go and maintained, like, for me personally, like a consistent physical endeavor of some kind, something I could focus daily, like physical effort on, as far and like personal too, like not even just because I used to work construction, you know, and it was physically taxing, but like just that, like for me, like daily running or lifting weights or something like that, like I got to do something like that or there's going to be a problem. And I didn't know that, you know, I didn't know how much that stuff was helping me, maybe even when I was in the Marines. And so just implementing that, I think that was, if I could go back to that, Kacy, I'd tell him that. Maybe you wouldn't have as good a book, but you'd probably be a little bit better off.
And I think it's pretty well known that previous generations of combat veterans did not talk about any of this stuff at all, at least not in public. And Kacy, you're coming from your law school experience where you were around a lot of much younger, well, not much younger, you were around a younger group of people. That didn't come off well. Do you see any difference in how your younger classmates handle mental health as opposed to your generation and old people like me? Is it different?
Good question.
I think that it's starting to get different, but they're trying to put, little band-aids over sucking chest wounds, so that it's like they're like, oh, this is mental health day. It's well, the mental health day is an email to these kids that tells them they should take a moment for their mental health. But they're not like, we're going to suspend the reading for the day because we're overtaxing you kids. So it's almost like a fake fix. You know what I mean? I guess it's a good, maybe it's progress because it's at least acknowledging it, but they're not actually doing anything. So like saying that this is a mental health day, but that's it, is almost meaningless to me. So it's like I don't think that they're implementing any meaningful practices into. I mean, they're still taxing these kids to their absolute limits. You know what I mean? And as you can imagine, I mean, yeah, nobody's shooting at you, but some of these, I mean, there's kids that have mental breakdowns in law school. You know what I mean? Just because it's so much. And I get that. I get there's a weeding out process. I respect that, but I don't think, at least what I witnessed in law school, like I didn't see any different or better coping mechanisms, or I just saw the same shit, different day. You know what I mean? With a little ribbon put on it.
Are they more willing to talk about it than older people might be?
I think
The young people.
I think, which is a step in the right direction. I think they're more willing to joke about it, which I think is a plus. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of people are uh, like joking about their actual problems in joke form, as opposed to actually admitting that they have a real problem. So they'll turn whatever thing they're struggling with into like a kind of a gallows humor, and then they'll use that, which I think is a plus. You know what I mean? I always say if you can't laugh about it, you'll cry about it. So I'm all about that too. But I don't. That's about it as far as mental.
But but it's at the same time, like, because I agree with you. I think there's value in humor, and there's value in that sort of gallows humor, because there is a sort of taking the power away, regaining some agency over it. But like you're alluding to, you're also not confronting it. It's another way of sort of skirting around the real issue. And not really getting in front of it. I think one of the things too, I guess going back to your first question, Nancy, is that community. I was really hesitant and whether it's a church community, a faith-based community, veteran Marines, just veterans in general, a therapy small group, fly fishermen, a writing club, like whoever. I would or even a workout club, like if you want to join a CrossFit gym, like those folks seem to be really tight. A runners group, find these places that you don't necessarily have to like always be talking about mental health and PTSD, but you are together and you're doing something more than just hanging out. Like, of course you could just go to the bar, but that's not going to do anything for you because you're not doing anything. You need to be doing something. You need to be doing something with people that are also doing that thing. I think that would be very, very helpful. It would something I wish I would have embraced earlier on. And then going to what you were talking about, Kacy, I feel like that thing is what is lacking from this current and emerging generation, is because there's so much going on with these damn small computers in our hands that when these kids, they don't have these avenues of community, in personal community. Not, there's plenty of online communities, but there's not enough of that personal interaction. They're not proximate with their pain, and so there's no healing going on. There might be an acknowledgement, but there's no actual healing because there's no one there to, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of therapy in just being proximate, like physically proximate with people.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like you were saying too, if it's a part of a running club or some kind of physical club too, you put two of those things together, and they become even more. Or a reading club too is spectacular, as long as it doesn't. Which most of mine end up turning into drinking clubs. Most of the book clubs I've ever been in, but it's which is fun too. But
there's like, another kind of book club.
yeah, but like something that you can focus on that's outside of what you do and outside of and I think if you can add in the physical element too, that's fantastic. One of my problems I run into is that I would be fine living in the mountains by myself somewhere. You know what I mean? Like I actually deal with isolation very well. But then when I'm around a lot of people doing something like that, then I can start to feel like I'm like, oh, this is actually positive. But the way I work, like I can be fine alone. And so I sometimes I won't try to get into these larger groups and that kind of stuff because I'm like, no, I'll just mow the lawn by myself. I'll be fine, So I have to like kind of force myself to go do that more social stuff. And I like you said, it's good medicine. It really is.
Yeah.
Well, another question for both of you. You're both fathers. What lessons are you teaching your kids about about having good mental health? I mean, I know that's a touchy subject and it may be too personal to ask you, but I mean, as dads, are there things that you've learned from your own struggles that you are, trying to change or impart that knowledge on your kids?
I think me personally, it's just to be able to talk about things. You know what I mean? Just to be able to get it out in the open, actually confront it and talk about it. Because that was definitely my generation of the don't talk about anything, don't bring it up. You know what I mean? Like we, in my family, at least growing up, it was like there's an issue, there'll be a big blow up, and then everybody will just go about their business like nothing happened without actually confronting the situation. So
like,
I mean,
oh,
that's my
wow,
family.
cry me a river. Like, yeah, we all got it tough.
Yeah, you really want something to cry about? Yeah.
Yeah.
But so, and even though it's funny because it's more difficult to do that because you have to take the conscious effort to be like, okay, we're going to have this big drawn out thing. We're going to talk about it. Some people might start crying, but at least you hope that you get in front of it. At least you get them comfortable talking about their feelings, and it's not this alien, uncomfortable thing when they get out and start their own families and that kind of stuff. You kind of hope it makes a difference, But I'm sure I'm damaged them in other ways, just them observing me. So, but
sure.
hopefully they've taken that with them.
Yeah, we won't know until we get their therapy bills, right?
Yeah, we're all damaging our kids. That's for real.
Yeah, I think for me, my guys are a bit young to sort of take on sort of a weightier thing. But one of the things, and I have nothing to do with this because I don't have a whole lot to contribute, but my wife is doing a really excellent job of a lot of what Kacy's talking about is sort of upping their EQ, and making it very okay for them to just sit with their feelings and like, hey, dude, you're having like big feelings right now, like, and that's okay, but let's talk it through. And there'll be times where she'll just have a sit with them and they'll walk and like the what seems to be a painstaking process of like 10-15 minutes of them going through this single issue, when they walk away from it, they're great. Whereas me, I'm like, I don't want to deal with it. So it's over in 30 seconds, but I'm going to harp on this stuff mentally for like the next 2 years.
Oh yeah.
And so anyways, I can't contribute a ton to that formation of, so I guess I'm just really blessed to have her there walking them through that and making it and taking that stigma away that like when I'm having big feelings, I'm going to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, you've reminded me that I should probably come clean about this. My wife does most of she's the real, she'll stop me from going more like, what are you crying about? That kind of a situation.
Yeah.
Because that's my default, you know what I mean? My default is to do that. So I have to kind of be brought back and be like, is that really the parent you want to be? And like, God damn it, no, it's not. So then I have to be brought back and kind of I mean, it's like most things in my life. It's all her. So.
Well, and forgive me if that question was too personal, to ask about parenting techniques. I mean, I didn't mean to pry. So.
No, not at all.
You need to edit that.
Great question. Yeah, great question. And it's something important too because it's much easier to not practice what you preach. You know what I mean? So when you tell your kids to go do something, it's like you're kind of hoping that they all escape the way you think, so they don't make the same mistakes you make. And you hope they do. Who knows if they ever will? I don't know. But
yeah, I mean, my kids are all adults now. I'm not going to talk about them on the podcast, but the one parenting thing I learned is they all have their own dragons to slay. It's never the one you think it's going to be. They've all got their own, their own separate dragon that's just for them.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point just for everybody in general too. And we kind of touched on it earlier is that everybody brings their own thing to the table,
Mm-hmm.
and people talk to me about like, like, was it the combat that actually did it? Like, I don't know. Like, would I have been this crazy without the combat experience? I think there's a high likelihood I would have been anyways. You know what I mean? Combat can just amplify and distill everything and make it more potent than what it would have been without it. But I think the same stuff is within you, and you're going to process stuff the same way regardless of your experiences.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it turns it up to 11, but it doesn't mean that you weren't a 9 before you actually got on the plane.
Yeah, it's 100% true.
Well, Kacy, man, this has been just fantastic. I really admire everything that you're doing, and I'm just so happy that you've agreed to come on the show multiple times. I'm really enjoying staying in touch with you. Just keep doing what you're doing, man. I don't know, Nancy, do you have anything else?
No, that's it. Like, just a parting message to everybody, just keep moving forward. That's what I do, is just got to keep moving. And it's normally better once you get on the other side of the hill.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, dude, so for all of our listeners, the book is Freaks of a Feather. Go to YouTube. We'll post it on the show description. If you mind of us sharing your commencement speech with everyone?
No, perfect. Okay. Luckily, it's grainy enough you can't tell how nervous I was, so that's ideal.
Yeah, we'll look out for you. Hopefully, we'll see more of your stuff on Task and Purpose, or what do you got? New York Times, Leatherneck Magazine. Yeah. So, Ben, just keep doing what you're doing. Best of luck in your bar prep. When is your test? When you test out?
Into July. Okay. So it's kind of right around.
It's coming up.
Yeah. So no stress. The beauty of it, it's only my whole life, weighing on this. So it's not anything to really get too stressed out about. So,
no, definitely not.
No.
I mean, I'm
it's just my
livelihood.
Yeah. No, it's totally fun. Yeah.
It's just 3 years of your life that you've dedicated to this thing. All right, man. Best of luck to you, and we'll try to get you back on the show sometime soon.
Thanks again for having me, Vic and Nancy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Take it easy. Thanks for your time today, Kacy.
Scuttlebutt is a production of the Marine Corps Association. I am William Truding, but you've also heard the voices or contributions of Vic Rubel, USMC retired, Nancy Lichman, or Ty Frazier. The opinions expressed in this episode do not reflect the official stance of the Marine Corps, DoD, or Marine Corps Association.